Those are the main stories. Viewers in the UK will be joining Rita Chakrabarti for the latest news at 1 o'clock in the UK. Viewers on BBC World News will have the company of Samantha Simmonds.
This is BBC World News. I'm Samantha Simmonds. Our top stories. China warns of error and danger after the US, UK and Australia sign a pact on nuclear-powered submarines.
It will only spur an arms race and undermine the international non-proliferation regime and harm regional peace and stability.
Shares fell on Asian markets as investors become nervous over the sudden collapse of two US banks. A state of emergency has been declared in Malawi after Tropical Storm Freddy struck the country for a second time, killing at least 111 people. China will resume issuing visas to foreign tourists from next Wednesday for the first time since the start of the COVID pandemic 3 years ago. A report says police in England and Wales are not acting on complaints of violence against women by officers or staff.
We cannot be complacent, and we really need very robust investigations to take forward and dismiss anyone who we think is working in our organisation that shouldn't be.
Hello and welcome. China and Russia have denounced a defence pact by the US, Britain and Australia that will provide Australia with nuclear-powered attack submarines. Russia said the pact would bring years of confrontation to Asia. Meanwhile, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said the three countries were on a path of error and danger, calling the deal a violation of the aims and objectives of the International Non-Proliferation Treaty. Here's the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin speaking at the Daily Press Briefing. Banking shares fell on Asian markets overnight, reflecting investors' nervousness after the sudden collapse of two US banks, Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, over the weekend. Japan's Nikkei index and Hong Kong's Hang Seng both saw falls of around 2%, but the European bank's index fell only slightly at the opening after posting its biggest percentage loss in more than a year yesterday. The boss of Silicon Valley Bank has announced that the bank is conducting business as usual within the US and to expect the resumption of cross-border transactions in the coming days. The US government has assured customers that it would guarantee customers' savings. Earlier, I spoke to our business correspondent Ben King, who said even though bank shares were trading a little bit lower, the markets were relatively calm, but customers were less confident. Russia says it plans to double its production of high-precision tactical missiles, with the Defence Minister Sergei Shoigu instructing a state-owned arms manufacturer to increase its output. Russia continues to target Ukraine's energy infrastructure in mass attacks using missiles and drones, although not with the frequency seen at the end of last year. As the war continues into its second year, a BBC team has embedded itself with a group of aid volunteers who deliver food several times a month to hundreds of residents in the Kherson Oblast region of Ukraine. These volunteers have continued to work within the artillery range of Russian troops. It often comes close to costing them their lives. Victoria Zuhan reports. Stay with us here on BBC World News. Still to come, we'll be getting the latest live from Malawi as tens of thousands of people are displaced by one of the strongest storms ever recorded in the Southern Hemisphere. This is BBC World News. Now, a state of emergency has been declared in Malawi after a tropical storm, Freddy, struck the country for a second time, killing more than 100 people. Rescue workers describe being completely overwhelmed by the rainfall and mudslides. The storm is one of the longest running in history and has caused havoc across parts of southern Africa. Tom Gibb in Malawi, thank you for joining us, and do stay safe. Thank you. A UK team of structural and civil engineers are travelling to the earthquake zone in Turkey to assess why so many buildings there collapsed. Turkish engineers already on the ground have provided them with proof of inferior building materials being used in construction. The team will produce a report in a matter of weeks designed to improve seismic safety when the area is rebuilt. Our science editor Rebecca Morel has more.
Scientific communication. So I am sure that between all of us, we are going to have a very good understanding of the event and its impacts very soon.
That's it from me. Thanks for watching. This is BBC World News. I'm Samantha Simmonds. Our top stories. China warns of error and danger after the US, UK and Australia sign a pact on nuclear-powered submarines. Shares fall on Asian markets as investors become nervous over the sudden collapse of two US banks. State of emergency has been declared in Malawi after Tropical Storm Freddie struck the country for a second time, killing at least 111 people. China will resume issuing visas to foreign tourists from next Wednesday for the first time since the start of the COVID pandemic 3 years ago. A report says police in England and Wales are not acting on complaints of violence against women by officers or staff. Hello and welcome. International pressure is growing on Georgia to release or enable medical access to Mikhail Saakashvili, the former president turned prisoner. MEPs in Strasbourg today met with the president's family, and last month world leaders, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, called for his release. Mr. Saakashvili has staged a number of hunger strikes and alleges he was poisoned in prison. Georgian authorities are denying these requests, and officials have said he is feigning his condition to secure early release from prison. I'm joined now by Rayhan Dimitri, our Caucasus correspondent who is in Tbilisi. Rayhan, welcome to you. So take us through what Mr. Saakashvili is saying has happened to him. OK, Rayhan Dimitri in Tbilisi, thank you. To China now, where the government has announced it will once again start issuing a range of visas to foreigners from Wednesday. It's seen as a major easing of travel restrictions that have been in place since the outbreak of the pandemic. The move marks the latest step towards reopening China to the outside world. Our Asia business reporter Katie Silver has more from Singapore. Katie Silver there. Now to India, where air pollution is becoming a big problem. Much attention has been focused on the levels of dirty air in big cities, but residents in many of India's small towns are breathing in much more polluted air. The country's rapid economic growth, driven by its expanding cities and soaring energy needs, is leaving pollution as an unavoidable but often ignored byproduct in these small towns. Our Chana Shukla reports. Here in the UK, the conduct of police officers has been under scrutiny after a series of scandals. Fresh data in England and Wales has revealed less than 1% of officers or police staff who were accused of violence towards women and girls during a 6-month period have so far been fired. Our Home Affairs correspondent June Kelly reports. The convicted paedophile Gary Glitter has been recalled to prison for breaking the conditions of his release. The 78-year-old former singer, whose real name is Paul Gadd, was released last month after serving half of his 16-year sentence for sexually abusing 3 girls. Aruna Iyengar reports. Let's just bring you some breaking news coming in concerning Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. Mark Zuckerberg, the boss of Meta, has said that they are cutting around 10,000 jobs and closing around 5,000 additional open roles that they haven't yet hired for. This comes after layoffs towards the end of last year in November, in which 11,000 jobs, or around 13% of Meta's workforce, was cut. These latest round of cuts were hinted at since at least January. It's thought that they're going to try and improve efficiency and trim middle management, but we know for now that 10,000 people are to lose their jobs and around 5,000 additional open roles won't be hired for that they had expected to hire for. We'll bring you more on that as we get it, but do stay with us here on BBC World News. Still to come. The City of Love takes on a whiff of waste as the strikes continue. Rubbish piles up in Paris. Welcome back. This is BBC World News. Now, people travel to Paris from all over the world to experience the classic architecture, fine food and maybe even some romance. But now, with the rubbish collectors' strike entering its second week, they're saying their trip is lacking a little ooh la la. Stephanie Prentice reports. Now, a small data centre the size of a washing machine is being used to heat a public swimming pool in the south of England. The computer system generates enough heat to warm the pool to around 30 degrees Celsius 60% of the time. The project, which is believed to be a UK first, is saving the council-run leisure centre thousands of pounds in energy costs, as our correspondent Jenny Kumar reports. I'm sure many will agree, a great idea. Now, the Indonesian island of Bali is planning to ban foreign visitors from using motorbikes following an increase in cases of people breaking local traffic laws. Police there say there have been more than 170 traffic violations by tourists visiting the popular destination in late February and early March alone. Under the new proposals, tourists will only be able to get bikes from authorised travel agents. But bike rental companies say the authorities should concentrate on specific traffic violations rather than imposing a blanket ban on riders. The new law is likely to come into force later on this year. The first set of stamps bearing the silhouette of King Charles alongside popular garden flowers are being released by Royal Mail. These will be the first stamps showing the King's profile that will be widely seen by the public. Flowers are said to reflect the fact that the monarch is a passionate gardener. Dick Fosbury, the man who revolutionised the high jump in athletics, has died at the age of 76. He won a gold medal at the 1968 Olympics using his innovative technique of a curved run-up, twisting in the air and clearing the bar backwards and face up. The Fosbury flop, as it became known, was subsequently adopted by all elite jumpers, most of whom had previously used the straddle technique, and I'm sure it's one that we've all seen since. That's it for me for the moment. You can reach me on Twitter there. I'm at Samantha TV News. Do stay tuned. We've got all the day's top stories coming up for you next. That's it for me though.